Lisa Parker stood in the grand chamber of Unity Prime, surrounded by representatives from 100 different worlds. The orbital station hung in neutral space, a symbol of cooperation between the stars. She had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now, and she knew how these meetings worked. The powerful species talked. The newer ones listened. That was the way of things. Today's session was supposed to be simple. Trade agreements with the Velcron sovereignty. They were a large empire, controlling nearly 200 worlds across the outer spiral arm. Their delegate, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, had been pleasant enough during the preliminary meetings. Lisa had no reason to expect trouble. She was wrong. The Velcron delegate rose from his seat, and the chamber fell silent. His voice boomed through the translation devices that everyone wore. The Velcron sovereignty has a proposal for the human government. We believe it will benefit both our peoples. Lisa nodded politely. This was normal. She waited for him to continue. Humanity controls 42 worlds, the Velcron said. Many of them are small, barely developed. We propose that Earth surrender 3 of these colonies to Velcron administration. In exchange, we will provide favorable trade terms and protection from hostile forces. The words took a moment to register. Lisa blinked. I'm sorry. You want us to give you 3 of our worlds? Yes. It is a generous offer. Your species is new to galactic politics. You lack the experience to properly manage so many colonies. We will take this burden from you. Lisa felt her hands tighten on the datapad she held. She kept her voice calm. The answer is no. Those worlds belong to Earth. The people there are human citizens. We will not surrender them. The Velcron delegate's face changed. His expression became cold. Perhaps you did not understand. This is not truly a negotiation. These are our terms. Then you misunderstand how negotiations work, Lisa said. Her heart was beating faster now, but her voice remained steady. Earth does not surrender its people or its territory. Not to you. Not to anyone. The other delegates in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. The Therix representative, a small furred creature, whispered something to her aide. The Zentari captain in the observer section leaned forward, watching carefully. The Velcron delegate touched a control on his own datapad. The chamber's central display activated. It showed a view from space. A planet with green continents and blue oceans. Lisa recognized it immediately. Harvest Moon 7. One of humanity's agricultural colonies. 2,500 people lived there. Farmers mostly. Families who had left Earth to build something new. This was recorded 6 hours ago, the Velcron said. Lisa watched as Velcron warships appeared in orbit around Harvest Moon 7. She watched as they fired on the colony. The defense satellites tried to fight back, but there were only a few of them. They died quickly. Then the ships turned their weapons on the surface. The video showed the capital city burning. It showed the school, the market, the residential areas. It showed everything, turning to ash and dust. Lisa stood frozen. Her mind could not process what she was seeing. The Velcron delegate spoke again, but his words sounded distant. 2,000 human civilians are dead. This is what happens when you refuse Velcron terms. Now, Ambassador Parker, we ask again, will you surrender the 3 colonies we have requested? The chamber was completely silent. Every delegate stared at Lisa. Some looked horrified. Others looked away. The Velcron delegate smiled. Lisa looked at the screen. At the ruins of Harvest Moon 7. She thought about the reports she had read from that colony. They grew wheat there. Real Earth wheat under an alien sun. They had children. She remembered approving a request for a new school building just last month. They needed more room because the population was growing. Those children were dead now. She closed her datapad with a soft click. The sound seemed loud in the quiet chamber. She looked at the Velcron delegate. Her face showed nothing. No anger. No tears. No emotion at all. Humanity withdraws from all Galactic Council proceedings, she said. Her voice was flat. Empty. Effective immediately. We are done here. The Velcron delegate laughed. You withdraw? You run away? This proves you are weak. You are not ready for galactic politics. Lisa did not respond. She simply turned and walked toward the exit. Other delegates called after her. The Zentari captain stood, trying to catch her attention. The council chairman demanded she return to her seat. She ignored them all. She walked out of the chamber. Her security team followed her. Confusion on their faces. They had never seen her like this. Ambassador Parker was always composed, always diplomatic, always willing to talk. Not anymore. The walk to the docking bay felt endless. Lisa's mind kept replaying the video. The school burning. 2,000 people. Gone. Murdered to make a point. To force Earth into submission. Her shuttle was waiting. The pilot saw her face and asked no questions. They departed from Unity Prime within minutes. As the station grew smaller behind them, Lisa finally allowed herself to feel. But not grief. Not yet. That would come later. What she felt was cold, clear, focused. She opened a secure channel to Earth. President Ryan Cooper answered immediately. His face appeared on the screen, and she could see he already knew. Someone had sent him the footage. Lisa, he said quietly. I'm so sorry. I need you to call an emergency session, she said. All the major governments. The military command. Everyone. It's already happening. We're meeting in 2 hours. Good. Lisa looked out at the stars streaming past. Tell Admiral Morrison to prepare the fleet. Tell the factories to start running at full capacity. Tell everyone to come home. Ryan nodded slowly. Are we going to war? Lisa thought about that question. War seemed too simple. Too clean. This was something else. Something the galaxy had never seen from humanity before. No, she said finally. We're not going to war. War requires talking. Declarations. Warnings. She looked back at the president. We're just going to act, and the galaxy will watch. The transmission ended. Lisa sat alone in the shuttle as it raced toward Earth. Behind her, Unity Prime continued its orbit. The Galactic Council continued its session. The Velcron delegate celebrated his victory. None of them understood yet. None of them realized what they had just started. They thought they had intimidated humanity, forced them to retreat, proven that Earth was weak and afraid. They were wrong about the fear. Humans were afraid, but not of the Velcron, not of their ships, or their threats, or their power. Humanity was afraid of what they were about to become, of what they were about to do, of the line they were about to cross. But they would cross it anyway. Because on Harvest Moon 7, children had died, and humanity would never let that go unpunished. The galaxy would learn this soon enough. They would learn it in silence, in cold calculation, in the terrible focus of an entire species, united by grief and fury. The galaxy thought they knew humans. They thought Earth's people were emotional and weak, quick to anger but quick to forgive. They were about to discover they were half right. Humans were emotional, but their emotions could be transformed into something far more dangerous than rage. They could become purpose, determination, absolute resolve. And when humanity moved with that kind of focus, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. Lisa Parker closed her eyes and let the shuttle carry her home. There would be time for tears later. Time to mourn. Time to remember the names and faces of those who died. But not yet. Right now, there was only the cold clarity of decision. The species had been attacked. The response would be total, and the galaxy would never forget what happened when you made humanity choose between mercy and justice. They had chosen. The choice was made the moment that school burned, the moment those children died. The galaxy just didn't know it yet. The factories never stopped. Day and night, across every human world, the machines ran without pause. Steel flowed, components assembled, ships took shape in orbital yards that had been empty just weeks before. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of Earth's primary military shipyard and watched the construction. 50 new warships hung in the darkness, nearly complete. 50 more were just beginning, their skeletal frames catching the light from the distant sun. This was just one yard. Earth had 30 others running at the same pace. And Earth was not alone. Every colony world had converted its industries. Every station had retooled. The entire human economy had shifted into a single gear, turning toward one goal. Jake was 53 years old. He had spent his entire adult life in Earth's small defense fleet. Before the Velcron attack, humanity's military consisted of maybe 300 ships. Most of them were patrol vessels, light cruisers designed to stop pirates or rescue stranded colonists. Earth had never needed more than that. Now they needed everything. "Admiral," a voice said behind him. Commander Ashley Bennett approached with a datapad. She was young, only 30, but she had a sharp mind for logistics. Jake had promoted her to second in command 3 days after President Cooper gave him full military authority. The production numbers from the outer colonies just came in. Jake took the datapad. His eyes scanned the numbers. Each colony reported the same thing: maximum output. Every factory converted. Every worker volunteering for extended shifts. Resources redirected from civilian needs to military production. "How many ships will we have in 30 days? Jake asked. "If we maintain this pace, 2,000 combat-ready vessels," Ashley said. "Most of them will be new designs. Fast. Heavily armed. No crew comforts. Built for one purpose only." Jake nodded. The old designs would not work for this. Humanity's previous ships were built for defense, for showing the flag, for making other species respect Earth's sovereignty. These new ships were different. They were built to hurt, to destroy, to make the Velcron regret what they had done. "What about personnel?" Jake asked. "Volunteers are flooding in. We have 3 times more applicants than positions. Every family from Harvest Moon 7 who survived wants to serve. We're having to turn people away." Jake understood that. The attack had united humanity in a way nothing else could. Political differences disappeared. National borders meant nothing. Everyone saw the footage of that school burning. Everyone knew children died there. And everyone wanted to be part of the response. He looked back at the ships under construction. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Clean lines. Efficient design. No wasted space. The engineers had stripped away everything except weapons and engines. These ships would be uncomfortable, cramped, hard to live in for extended periods. But they would fight. And that was all that mattered. On the bridge of his vessel, the Zentari captain Daniel Hayes watched human space from a distance. His ship was equipped with the best sensors in the galaxy. The Zentari had always been observers, scientists who studied other species. Daniel had spent 10 years observing humanity, filing reports about their rapid technological advancement and unusual social structures. Now he watched something unprecedented. Every human ship had returned to human territory. Every trade vessel. Every explorer. Every diplomat. The borders of human space were closed. Nothing went in, nothing came out. But inside those borders, energy readings were off the scale. Industrial output had increased by 800%. Heat signatures suggested massive construction on every human world. Daniel's sensors detected weapons testing, ship trials, military exercises. He recorded everything and sent regular reports to the Galactic Council. But the Council did not seem to understand what they meant. Daniel understood. He had studied human history, their wars, their capacity for organized violence when threatened. The other species in the galaxy saw humans as emotional and reactive. They thought Earth's silence meant fear and retreat. Daniel knew better. Human silence was not submission. It was focus. When humans stopped talking, that was when you should be most afraid. Because it meant they had finished debating. They had reached a decision. And now, they were acting on it. He tried to warn them. He sent urgent messages to Unity Prime. He contacted the Galactic Council's security director, a human woman named Nicole Sanders, who had stayed behind when all other humans left. She was the only human still speaking to other species, and only to coordinate evacuations of civilians from areas that might become war zones. Daniel met with her in a neutral station near the border. Nicole looked tired. Her eyes had dark circles. She had not slept much since Harvest Moon 7. "You need to tell me what's happening," Daniel said. "The Council thinks humanity is preparing to defend their territory. But these numbers suggest something else." Nicole looked at him for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "What do you think is happening, Captain?" "Fly. I think humanity is preparing to attack, to invade Velcron space, to wage total war." Nicole nodded slowly. "You're half right. We're preparing to attack. But this isn't war. War requires two sides who both want to fight. The Velcron will just be receiving judgment." Daniel felt a chill run through him. "The Council needs to intervene. Mediate. Stop this before it starts." "The Council had their chance to intervene," Nicole said. Her voice was cold. "They watched the Velcron murder 2,000 humans. They watched children die. And they did nothing. Said nothing. Now humanity will act. And the galaxy will watch." She stood to leave. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Please. Tell your leaders there has to be another way. Negotiation. Reparations. Justice through galactic law." Nicole pulled her arm free. "There is no galactic law that applies here. The Velcron proved that when they attacked Harvest Moon 7, they proved that might makes right in this galaxy. So humanity will show them what real might looks like." She left. Daniel sat alone in the empty station and knew that everything was about to change. The galaxy had never seen humanity united in fury. They were about to learn what it meant. The Velcron sovereignty was not worried. Their leaders met in the capital world and congratulated themselves on handling the human problem. The humans had withdrawn, closed their borders. They were clearly afraid and scrambling to defend themselves. The Velcron military commander, a veteran of 50 campaigns, sent patrol ships to the border of human space. They would monitor the situation, make sure the humans stayed inside their territory. Perhaps in a few months, when Earth was sufficiently intimidated, they could extract even more concessions. The first patrol ship to reach the border sent back confused reports. The human border stations were empty, functional but abandoned. No life signs. No ships. Nothing. The patrol commander ordered his ships forward. They crossed into human space cautiously. Still nothing. The humans had retreated deeper into their own territory. Then the sensors picked up something. Ships. Hundreds of them. Moving together in perfect formation. The patrol commander tried to hail them. No response. He sent identification codes. Still nothing. The human ships just kept coming, silent, dark, running with minimal power signatures, like ghosts in the void. The patrol commander felt the first touch of real concern. He had fought many enemies. They always talked, threatened, boasted. Even the most aggressive species would communicate before engaging. These human ships said nothing. They just advanced. Steady, unstoppable. Growing larger on his sensors with each passing minute, he ordered his ships to fall back, to return to Velcron space and report this. But as his vessels turned, more human ships appeared behind them. They were surrounded. Hundreds of human warships, maybe thousands, all around them. Still no communication, no demands, no warnings. The patrol commander opened all channels. He broadcast surrender. He offered to negotiate. He begged for terms. The human ships did not respond. They simply opened fire. The patrol squadron died in minutes. Every ship destroyed. No survivors. The engagement was brutal and efficient. The humans used weapons the Velcron had never seen. Railguns that punched through shields. Missiles that dodged countermeasures. Tactics that showed no concern for honor or fair combat. The patrol commander's last transmission was a warning to the Velcron military command, 6 words before his ship exploded. "The humans are coming. All of them." Admiral Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of his flagship, Vengeance. The name had been chosen carefully. Not victory or freedom or hope. Those names were for peacetime. This was not peace. Around him, the bridge crew worked in focused silence. They had trained for this, drilled until every movement was automatic. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. Every person knew their role. "Fleet status," Jake said. "All ships report ready," Ashley replied from the tactical station. "We have 1,500 vessels in formation, another 500 in reserve, all weapon systems charged, all crews at battle stations." Jake looked at the display showing Velcron space. So many worlds. So many targets. The Velcron controlled a vast empire, built on the conquered territories of weaker species. They were used to winning, used to others backing down. They were about to learn a hard lesson. Humanity did not back down. Not when children died. Not ever. "Begin the operation," Jake ordered. "All ships proceed to target. Maintain communication silence. Rules of engagement are as briefed. Military targets only. Any ship that harms civilians will answer to me." The fleet moved forward, 1,500 warships entering Velcron territory. And behind them, more ships were coming. The factories had not stopped building. Fresh vessels launched every day, crewed by volunteers who wanted to be part of this, who needed to be part of this. The galaxy watched. Sensors across a dozen species tracked the human fleet. They saw the formation, the discipline, the cold purpose, and they began to understand. Humanity was not defending, they were attacking, and they were doing it in complete silence. No declarations of war, no demands for surrender, no propaganda broadcasts, just ships, weapons, and the absolute determination to make the Velcron pay for what they had done. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. And deep down, in the hearts of every species watching, a new fear was born. Fear of what humans became when you took away their mercy. The Velcron colony of Draston IV was a military stronghold. It housed 3 orbital defense platforms, 2 shipyards, and a fleet base that serviced over 200 warships. The colony had stood for 80 years. It had never been attacked. The Velcron considered it impregnable. It lasted 4 hours against the human fleet. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the Bridge of Vengeance as his ships moved into position. The Velcron defenses activated immediately. Defense platforms opened fire. Shield generators powered up. Velcron warships scrambled to launch. The human fleet did not slow down. They had planned this attack for weeks. Every ship knew its target. Every crew had rehearsed their role. There was no confusion, no hesitation. "All ships, commence attack," Jake ordered. The human vessels split into 3 groups. The first group went straight for the defense platforms. They ignored the incoming fire. Shields took the hits. Some ships died, blown apart by Velcron weapons. The survivors kept going. They rammed the platforms at full speed, detonating their reactors on impact. 3 defense platforms became clouds of debris in less than 10 minutes. The second group targeted the shipyards. They launched missiles by the thousands. The Velcron point defense systems tried to stop them, but there were too many. The missiles overwhelmed the defenses and struck the yards. Explosions rippled across the massive structures. Half-built ships broke apart. Construction facilities collapsed. The third group engaged the Velcron fleet. This was the hardest fight. The Velcron had good ships, strong shields, experienced crews, but the humans fought differently than any enemy the Velcron had faced before. Human ships did not maintain formation. They swarmed like predators. 3 or 4 would focus on a single Velcron vessel, attacking from different angles. When their missiles ran out, they used railguns. When the railguns overheated, they rammed. The Velcron crews were brave. They fought hard, but they had never encountered an enemy that treated their own lives as just another weapon to be expended. Commander Ashley Bennett coordinated the fleet's movements from tactical. She watched the display as ship after ship executed their assigned tasks. Some succeeded. Some died. All of them kept fighting. Vengeance. This is defiance. A voice crackled over the communication system. We've lost shields. Hull is breached. Engines are failing. Ashley checked the display. Defiance was one of the newer ships. She had launched from Earth's yards just 2 weeks ago. Her crew was young, volunteers from Harvest Moon 7, people who had lost family in the attack. Defiance. Fall back to the reserve line, Ashley ordered. We'll cover your withdrawal. There was a pause. Then the captain of Defiance spoke again. Negative. Vengeance. We still have one working engine. And we're right next to that shipyard's main reactor. Ashley understood immediately. Defiance. You don't have to do this. Your crew can evacuate. We know what we signed up for, the captain said. His voice was calm, at peace. Tell Admiral Morrison this one's for the kids. Defiance out. The communication cut off. On the display, Ashley watched as Defiance changed course. The damaged ship accelerated toward the shipyard's central structure. The Velcron tried to stop her. Weapons fire tore into the human vessel. But Defiance kept going. She struck the reactor at full speed. The explosion lit up the entire system. The shipyard, already damaged, broke apart completely. Thousands of tons of metal scattered into space. Ashley closed her eyes for a moment. Then, she marked Defiance's name on the casualty list and continued coordinating the battle. There would be time to grieve later. Right now, there was work to do. The Velcron fleet at Draston 4 fought for 3 hours. They destroyed 40 human ships. They damaged 100 more. But in the end, the mathematics were simple. The humans had more ships, more weapons, and they were willing to accept losses that no sane military commander would consider acceptable. When the last Velcron warship exploded, the human fleet regrouped. They had accomplished their objective. Every military installation around Draston 4 was destroyed. The orbital platforms were debris. The shipyards were gone. The fleet base was burning. The colony itself was untouched. The civilians on the surface had watched the battle from their cities. Not a single human weapon had fired on the planet. Not one missile had struck civilian infrastructure. Jake stood and walked to the front of the bridge. He looked at the ruins of the Velcron military installations floating in space. This was just the beginning. They had 30 more targets in Velcron space. 30 more systems where Velcron military power would be erased. Casualties? He asked quietly. 40 ships destroyed. 96 damaged but repairable. Estimated 8,000 dead. 12,000 wounded, Ashley reported. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the strain in it. 8,000 dead, in one battle. The old Jake, the one who existed before Harvest Moon 7, would have been horrified by those numbers. Would have questioned whether any objective was worth that cost. The new Jake, the one who had seen the footage of burning schools and dead children, felt nothing but cold determination. The Velcron had started this. They had shown humanity that the galaxy respected only strength. That mercy was weakness. That civilian deaths were acceptable if they achieved your goals. Fine. Humanity would use those same rules. But they would use them better. They would be stronger, more determined, more willing to pay the price, and they would never, ever target civilians. Because that was the line that separated humans from the Velcron. That was what made this justice, instead of revenge. Send a recovery team for survivors, Jake ordered. Repair crews begin work immediately. We move to the next target in 6 hours. The crew acknowledged and began their tasks. Jake returned to his command chair and pulled up the casualty reports. He read every name, memorized them. These people had died under his command. For his decisions, he owed them that much. On Unity Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The Velcron representative stood before them, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. The humans have attacked Draston 4 without provocation, he declared. They have violated every principle of civilized warfare. They must be stopped. The other delegates murmured amongst themselves. Many looked uncomfortable. The council chairman, a Therix elder, called for order. The humans were provoked. A delegate from the Zentari Observation Corps pointed out. Your military attacked their colony, killed their civilians. That was a police action, the Velcron representative insisted. A response to human defiance. This is different. This is an invasion. Captain Daniel Hayes sat in the observer section and said nothing. But he watched. He had filed his reports. He had warned them. The council had not listened. Now they were seeing the consequences. The council debated for hours. Some called for sanctions against humanity. Others demanded the Velcron be held accountable for the attack on Harvest Moon 7. A few suggested military intervention to stop the human advance. In the end, they did nothing. Because none of them wanted to be the next target of human fury. None of them wanted their military installations destroyed. Their fleets scattered, their personnel killed in brutal, efficient combat. The galaxy was learning a hard truth. When you attacked humanity, they did not complain to the council. They did not file protests or seek mediation. They simply came for you. Silent, focused, unstoppable. The Velcron Military Command met in their war room on the capital world. Generals and admirals argued over strategy. They had lost Draston 4. Intelligence reported human fleets moving toward other systems. At this rate, they would lose half their military infrastructure in a month. We need to force them to negotiate, one general argued. Hit them where it hurts. Make them feel pain. The military commander considered this. The humans had more ships than expected, more industrial capacity, and their tactics were brutal. They fought with no regard for their own casualties. That made them dangerous, but they were still relatively new to the galaxy. They had few allies, and their territory was smaller than the Velcron sovereignty. Prepare a strike force, the commander ordered. Pull ships from every system. We will attack Earth itself. Force the humans to recall their fleets to defend their homeworld. Then we negotiate from a position of strength, the other Velcron officers agreed. It was a sound strategy. Hit the enemy's heart. Make them choose between offense and defense. Every species valued their homeworld. Above all else, they did not understand humanity yet. Did not realize that attacking Earth would not force surrender. It would only prove that the Velcron learned nothing from Harvest Moon 7. It would show them that the Velcron still thought civilian deaths were acceptable, still thought terror was a valid weapon, still believed that threatening innocents would make humans back down. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Admiral Jake Morrison received the intelligence report while his fleet was en route to their next target. A Velcron armada was forming. 3,000 ships, all headed toward Earth. He read the report twice. Then he called a meeting with his senior staff. The Velcron are sending their main fleet to attack Earth, he told them. They think we'll have to pull back to defend our homeworld. Will we? Ashley asked. Jake thought about that. Earth had defenses. Orbital platforms. System defense ships. General Amanda Foster commanded those forces. She was capable. Determined. But her forces numbered maybe 700 ships total against 3,000 Velcron vessels. The smart move would be to recall the fleet. Defend Earth. Force the Velcron into a defensive war on their own territory. But Jake thought about the message that would send. That humanity could be deterred by threatening their homeworld. That the Velcron strategy worked. That next time, any enemy could force human surrender by attacking Earth. No. That could not be the lesson. The galaxy needed to learn something else. They needed to see that humanity would not be intimidated. That attacking Earth would not save you. It would only ensure your destruction was total. We continue the offensive, Jake said. Earth will hold. And when we're done here, we will make sure the Velcron regret ever thinking they could threaten our homeworld. His staff looked at him in silence. Some were shocked. Others were relieved. but all of them understood. This was not about saving ships or minimizing casualties. This was about sending a message that would echo across the galaxy for generations. If you attack humanity, we will come for you. And nothing, not even the threat to our homeworld, will stop us from finishing what we started. The orders went out. The fleet would continue its mission. Earth would fight alone. And the galaxy would watch to see if humanity's fury burned hotter than their fear. General Amanda Foster stood in the command center buried deep beneath Earth's surface and watched the displays. 3,000 Velcron warships had just entered the solar system. They were coming fast, direct course toward Earth. She had 700 ships to stop them. 200 orbital defense platforms. 500 system patrol vessels. Not nearly enough. General, we have an incoming transmission from the Velcron fleet. Her communication officer reported. Put it through, Amanda said. The screen activated. A Velcron commander appeared. His expression was confident, arrogant. Human defenders, this is Commander Vectran of the Velcron Sovereignty. We are here to end this war. Surrender now and your world will be spared bombardment. Refuse and we will reduce your cities to ash. You have 1 hour to respond. The transmission ended. Amanda's staff looked at her, waiting for orders. She walked to the communication station and opened a channel to President Ryan Cooper. I assume you heard that, she said. Ryan's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. I did. What are our chances? Against 3,000 ships? Not good. We can hurt them. Slow them down. But unless Admiral Morrison returns, we cannot stop them from reaching bombardment range of Earth. Morrison is 3 days away at maximum speed. And he's not coming back. His orders are to continue the offensive. Amanda nodded. She had expected that. The strategy made sense from a larger perspective. Show the galaxy that humanity would not be intimidated. But it meant Earth would have to fight alone. Then we fight with what we have, she said. I need authorization for civilian evacuation protocols. Get as many people into the deep shelters as possible. You'll have it. What else do you need? Amanda thought about that. What did she need to defend Earth against an overwhelming force? More ships. More time. More ammunition. None of which were available. I need you to put the surrender question to a vote, she said. The Velcron are offering terms. The people should decide. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. I'll set it up. 1 hour vote. Planetary referendum. Surrender and save Earth. Or fight and risk everything. Thank you, sir. The transmission ended. Amanda turned back to her staff. All defense platforms to full readiness. All ships to battle stations. We have 1 hour. Make it count. The hour passed quickly. Across Earth, billions of people received the notification. A simple question. Accept Velcron terms, or fight. In homes and shelters and bunkers, people watched the news coverage. They saw the Velcron fleet approaching. Thousands of ships. Enough firepower to crack a planet. The experts calculated the odds. Earth's defenses would last maybe 3 hours. Then the bombardment would begin. The vote was not close. 97% chose to fight. Only 3% voted for surrender, even knowing the cost. Even understanding that many would die. Because humanity had seen what the Velcron did to Harvest Moon 7. They had seen the burned schools and dead children. And they knew that surrender would not bring safety. It would only bring more subjugation, more attacks, more dead children. Better to fight and die free than live as slaves to species who thought civilian massacres were acceptable negotiating tactics. President Ryan Cooper announced the results to the world. Earth fights, he said simply. Whatever comes, we stand together. The Velcron fleet received Earth's response. Commander Vectran was surprised but not concerned. The humans were choosing suicide. Fine. The Velcron would oblige them. The fleet would destroy the defenses, bombard the planet, and force the surviving humans to accept any terms the Velcron demanded. The fleet advanced past Mars. Earth's defenses activated. The first missiles launched from the orbital platforms, thousands of them streaking toward the Velcron formation. Vectran ordered point defense to engage. His fleet had sophisticated countermeasures. The missiles would be stopped easily, but the human missiles were different. They used evasive patterns. They split into submunitions. They carried electronic warfare packages that confused Velcron sensors. Many were destroyed, but many more got through. The first Velcron ships began to die. Not many. Maybe 30 vessels out of 3,000. But it was more than Vectran expected. "Return fire," he ordered. "Target those platforms." The Velcron fleet opened up. Energy weapons and missiles tore into the orbital defense network. The platforms had strong shields, but there were only 200 of them against 3,000 ships. The mathematics were brutal. One by one, the platforms died. But they kept firing until the end. Some platforms, when their weapons were exhausted, deliberately deorbited themselves and rammed Velcron ships. Their dying act was one last attempt to hurt the enemy. Station Commander Kevin Wright commanded Defense Platform 7. His station was one of the largest. It mounted 40 railguns and 100 missile tubes. His crew of 300 had trained for years, never expecting to fight a real battle. Now they were fighting for Earth's survival. "Station 7, this is command. Fall back to secondary position." General Foster's voice came through. Kevin looked at his tactical display. His shields were at 30%. Half his weapons were damaged or destroyed. A Velcron cruiser was closing on his position. "Negative, command. We still have targets and ammunition." "Station 7 remains on station." His weapons officer, a young woman named Kate Morrison, no relation to the Admiral, looked up from her console. "Sir, that cruiser is charging weapons. We can't take another hit." "Then we don't let them fire first," Kevin said. He targeted the cruiser with everything he had left. "All railguns, fire." The station shook as the railguns discharged. Solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds struck the Velcron cruiser. Its shields held for 3 seconds. Then, they collapsed. The railgun rounds punched through the hull. The cruiser broke apart. "Target destroyed," Kate reported. "Good. Next target." They fought for another hour. Station 7 took hit after hit. Sections decompressed. Fires broke out. The crew kept fighting. When the railguns ran out of ammunition, they used missiles. When the missiles were gone, they used the point defense lasers. Finally, a Velcron destroyer got a clean shot. The energy beam cut through Station 7's weakened shields and struck the reactor. Kevin felt the station shake. Alarms blared. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in. "Reactor breach," his engineer reported. "We have maybe 2 minutes before containment fails." Kevin opened the station-wide channel. "All hands. Abandon station. This is not a drill. Evacuate immediately." His crew began moving toward the escape pods. But Kevin stayed in his command chair. He still had one weapon. The station itself. Its mass. Its failing reactor. He targeted the closest Velcron ship and fired the maneuvering thrusters. Station 7 began to move. Slowly at first. Then faster. The Velcron ship tried to evade. Too late. Station 7, all 3,000 tons of dying metal, struck the enemy vessel at full thrust. The combined impact and reactor detonation destroyed both ships instantly. General Amanda Foster watched Station 7's icon disappear from her display. She marked it as lost and continued coordinating the defense. 40 stations destroyed now. 160 remaining. The Velcron had lost maybe 200 ships. The mathematics were not in Earth's favor. But Earth kept fighting. The system patrol ships engaged the Velcron fleet. These were small vessels. Light cruisers and destroyers. They could not stand toe-to-toe with Velcron warships, so they did not try. Instead, they swarmed. 3 or 4 patrol ships would target a single Velcron vessel. They would attack from different angles. When damaged, they would ram. The Velcron killed hundreds of them. But the humans killed Velcron ships too. The battle raged for 3 hours. The Velcron fleet pushed forward. Earth's defenses fell back. The orbital platforms died one by one. The patrol ships were reduced to scattered survivors, but the Velcron fleet was hurting. They had lost 800 ships. Their formation was broken. Their commander was frustrated and angry. Vectron had expected an easy victory, a quick battle, maybe a few losses. Instead, the humans were making him pay for every kilometer of space. His ships were damaged, his crews were tired. And they still had not reached bombardment range of Earth. All ships, maximum acceleration, Vectran ordered. We end this now. The Velcron fleet surged forward. The last of Earth's defenders tried to stop them. But there were too few ships left. Too many Velcron. The enemy fleet closed to bombardment range. Vectran prepared to give the order. Earth's cities would burn, just like Harvest Moon 7. The humans would learn the cost of defiance. Then every sensor on every Velcron ship screamed a warning. Massive slipstream signatures. Hundreds of them. Coming from behind the Velcron fleet, Vectran's blood went cold. He knew what those signatures meant. He pulled up the tactical display and felt his certainty crumble. Human warships. Thousands of them. Admiral Morrison's fleet had returned. They must have burned their engines past safe limits. Destroyed their slipstream drives to get here faster. An entire fleet trading their long-range capability for speed, all to reach Earth in time. Morrison's fleet emerged from slipstream between the Velcron and Earth. 1,500 battered warships, fresh from weeks of combat in Velcron space, damaged, low on ammunition, crews exhausted, but still fighting. Still defiant. Still standing between the Velcron and humanity's homeworld. On the Bridge of Vengeance, Admiral Jake Morrison looked at the Velcron fleet on his display. They were trapped now. Earth's surviving defenders behind them. His fleet in front. Nowhere to run. He opened a channel. Not to the Velcron. To Earth. 3 words. The only words he had spoken to anyone outside his fleet since the war began. We are home. Across Earth, in shelters and bunkers and ruined defense stations, humans heard those words. They wept. They cheered. They understood. Their fleet had returned. Humanity stood together. Whatever came next, they would face it as one species. United. Unbroken. Unstoppable. The Velcron fleet was trapped in Earth orbit. Admiral Morrison's fleet was between them and escape. General Foster's surviving ships blocked their retreat. Commander Vectron realized the terrible truth. He had come to conquer Earth. Instead, he had delivered his entire fleet into a trap. His ships were damaged, low on ammunition, surrounded. He opened a channel to send surrender terms. But the human fleet did not acknowledge. They just advanced. Silent. Focused. Coming to finish what the Velcron had started. The final battle for Earth began. And the galaxy watched in terror as humanity showed them what fury looked like when it walked in silence. The battle lasted 18 hours. The Velcron fleet fought desperately, knowing they had nowhere to run. But desperation was not enough against an enemy that had made peace with death weeks ago. Admiral Jake Morrison coordinated his fleet with cold precision. His ships were damaged from the campaign in Velcron space. Many were running on emergency power. Some had no shields left. But they kept fighting. They surrounded the Velcron fleet and methodically destroyed every military vessel. The Velcron tried to surrender 3 times. Each time, Morrison ignored them. He had no interest in their surrender. Not yet. Not while they still had weapons. Not while they could still hurt humans. His fleet kept firing, kept advancing, kept killing. On the surface of Earth, people watched the battle through telescopes and sensors. They saw the flashes of weapons fire in orbit. They saw ships dying on both sides. And they waited. Hoping. Praying. In the command center, General Amanda Foster coordinated what remained of Earth's defenses. Her platforms were mostly destroyed. Her patrol ships were scattered. But the survivors kept fighting. They supported Morrison's fleet. They protected Earth. General, we have a transmission from the Velcron government, her communication officer reported. They're offering unconditional surrender, asking for ceasefire. Amanda looked at the tactical display. The Velcron fleet was broken. Maybe 500 ships left out of 3,000. All damaged. All trying to retreat. Morrison's fleet was hunting them down one by one. "Forward it to Admiral Morrison," she said. "It's his decision." On Vengeance, Jake received the surrender offer. He read it carefully. The Velcron government was offering everything. Complete surrender. Reparations. Dismantling of their military. War crimes, trials. Everything humanity could possibly demand. Commander Ashley Bennett stood beside him. "Admiral, they're surrendering. We won." Jake looked at the display. Velcron ships were still fighting, still firing. Some were trying to ram Earth's orbital platforms in suicide attacks. Others were launching missiles at Morrison's fleet. "They're not surrendering," Jake said quietly. "Their government is. Their military is still fighting." "Then we make them stop." "Yes, we do." Jake opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships. The Velcron military has not surrendered. Continue engagement until every enemy vessel is destroyed or disabled. No Velcron warship leaves this system under its own power." The fleet acknowledged. The battle continued. It took 6 more hours. 6 hours of brutal combat. The human fleet lost another 100 ships. 3,000 more personnel died. But in the end, every Velcron military vessel in Earth orbit was destroyed or captured. Not one escaped. Not one fled to warn others. The message was absolute and clear. When the last Velcron ship went dark, Admiral Morrison finally allowed himself to breathe. He looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted. Several were wounded. All of them looked at him with hollow eyes. They had done it. They had defended Earth. They had destroyed the Velcron fleet. But the cost had been terrible. "Stand down from battle stations," Jake ordered. "Damage control teams begin repairs. Medical teams tend to the wounded." Ashley approached him. "Admiral, the Velcron government is asking for peace negotiations. Tell Ambassador Parker she can handle that. My part is done." 3 days later, Ambassador Lisa Parker returned to Unity Prime. The Galactic Council chamber was full. Every species had sent representatives. They all wanted to see what humanity would demand. What terms would be imposed on the Velcron sovereignty? Lisa walked to the center of the chamber. She carried a single data pad. No guards. No military escort. Just her. The council chairman called the session to order. "Ambassador Parker, the Galactic Council recognizes you. What are humanity's terms for the Velcron sovereignty?" Lisa activated her data pad. She read from it in a clear, steady voice. "The Velcron sovereignty will reduce their military to 20% of current strength. All remaining vessels will be monitoring and patrol craft only. No warships, no carriers, no battle stations." The Velcron representative started to protest, but the chairman waved him to silence. Lisa continued. "The Velcron will cede all border systems with human space. These systems will become a neutral zone. No Velcron presence will be permitted. The Velcron will pay reparations to humanity for 100 years. The funds will be used to rebuild what was destroyed and to support the families of those killed. The Velcron will fund the construction of a memorial on Harvest Moon 7. This memorial will list the name of every person killed in the attack. It will stand for as long as the Velcron sovereignty exists." Lisa paused. The chamber was silent. These terms were harsh, but not unreasonable. The Velcron could survive them. Recover from them. "Finally," Lisa said, "the Velcron military and political leadership responsible for the attack on Harvest Moon 7 will stand trial for war crimes. They will be judged by an independent tribunal. If found guilty, they will serve their sentences on Harvest Moon 7, helping to rebuild what they destroyed." The Velcron representative stood. "These terms are acceptable." "The Velcron sovereignty agrees to all conditions." Lisa nodded. "Good. Because these are not negotiable. Accept them, or humanity will resume military operations." "We will not stop until the Velcron's sovereignty ceases to exist." The threat hung in the air. No one doubted she meant it. The galaxy had watched humanity's campaign. They had seen the silent fury, the cold determination, the absolute refusal to accept anything less than total victory. The Velcron accepted. They signed the treaty, and the war ended, but the fear did not. Captain Daniel Hayes of the Zentari submitted his final report on the human conflict to the Galactic Historical Archives. He spent 3 weeks writing it, analyzing what he had witnessed, trying to explain to future generations what humanity had shown the galaxy. He wrote about the industrial capacity, how humans had built thousands of warships in weeks, how every human world had contributed, how the entire species had united. He wrote about the tactics, the willingness to accept casualties, the focus on military targets, the deliberate choice to spare civilians even when it would have been easier to kill them. He wrote about the silence, how humanity had stopped talking and started acting, how they had fought an entire war without propaganda, or threats, or demands, just cold, methodical destruction of enemy military forces. But most of all, he wrote about what it meant, the lesson the galaxy needed to learn. Humanity is not the strongest species, he wrote. They are not the most advanced. They do not have the best weapons or the fastest ships. But they have something more dangerous than any of that. They have the ability to transform love into fury, to take their grief and channel it into absolute determination, to look at an overwhelming enemy and choose to fight anyway, knowing they might lose, but refusing to surrender. And when humans make that choice, when they decide that something is worth dying for, they become unstoppable. Not because they are invincible, but because they will pay any price, accept any loss, sacrifice anything to achieve their goal. The Velcron learned this lesson. They learned it when they killed human children and expected humanity to retreat. Instead, humanity advanced. Silent, focused, unstoppable. Let this be recorded for all species. Let it be known across the galaxy. If you attack humanity, they will come for you. Not with anger, not with hate, but with cold calculation and absolute resolve. And they will not stop until justice is done. The report was filed in the archives. It was required reading for every military academy in the galaxy. Every species that encountered humanity read it, and they learned. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The factories reduced their output. The military began demobilizing. Admiral Jake Morrison retired. General Amanda Foster received a promotion. Ambassador Lisa Parker continued her work at Unity Prime. But humanity was changed. They had fought a war, lost thousands of people, shown the galaxy what they were capable of when pushed too far. President Ryan Cooper stood at the memorial for Harvest Moon 7. The Velcron had built it as promised. A tall structure of white stone, every name carved into it, 2,000 names, 53 of them children. Ryan read the names, all of them. It took hours. When he was done, he placed his hand on the stone and made a promise. "We will never forget," he said quietly, "and we will never let this happen again." The memorial stood on the ruins of the colony. Around it, construction crews were rebuilding. Homes, schools, farms, life returning to a place that had been destroyed. Some of the workers were human, volunteers who wanted to help rebuild. Some were from other species, aliens who had watched the war and understood that humanity had fought not for conquest, but for justice. And some were Velcron, prisoners serving their sentences, working every day to restore what their leaders had destroyed, facing the consequences of their actions. On Unity Prime, the Galactic Council held a session about expanding trade routes. Ambassador Lisa Parker sat in her seat, listening to the debates. The other delegates treated her with respect now. They asked for her opinion. They considered human interests. The Therix representative approached her after the session. "Ambassador Parker, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "During the war, humanity fought with incredible determination. You sacrificed so much, lost so many. Was it worth it? Lisa thought about that question. She thought about the 2,000 dead on Harvest Moon 7. The 50,000 who died in the war. The families torn apart. The resources spent. The trauma that would last for generations. No war is worth it, she said finally. But some wars are necessary. The Velcron thought they could murder our children, and we would submit. We had to show them they were wrong. We had to show the entire galaxy that humanity will not be intimidated. And now, hopefully, we can have peace. Real peace. Built on respect, not fear. But if someone threatens humanity again, if they attack our people, if they harm our children, they will learn the same lesson the Velcron learned. The Therix representative nodded slowly. What lesson is that? Lisa looked at him with calm eyes. That humanity's silence is not weakness. It is the sound of a species making a decision. And once we decide, nothing in the galaxy can change our course. She walked away, leaving the Therix representative to ponder her words. Around the council chambers, other species watched her go. They remembered the silent fury, the cold determination, the terrible price humanity was willing to pay, and they decided, each of them, that they would rather have humanity as a friend than an enemy. Far from Unity Prime, in human space, new ships were being built. Not warships this time. Exploration vessels, colony transports, research stations. Humanity was returning to the work of building their civilization, expanding their knowledge, reaching for the stars. But in the shipyards, in the factories, in the military academies, people remembered. They remembered what they were capable of, what they could become if necessary. The galaxy thought they knew humanity now. They thought the war had revealed all of Earth's secrets. They were wrong. The war had shown what humanity could do when angry, when focused, when united by grief and fury. But it had not shown what humanity could do in peace. What they could build, what they could achieve when their creativity and determination were directed toward creation instead of destruction. That revelation would come later. Over decades and centuries. As human technology advanced, as their influence spread, as they became not just warriors, but explorers, scientists, artists, teachers, the galaxy had watched in terror as humans walked out in silent fury. They would watch in wonder as humanity walked forward in hope and determination. Both faces of humanity, both equally powerful, both equally unstoppable. The war was over. The peace had begun. And humanity's journey among the stars continued, carrying with them the memory of what they had lost and the determination to build something better. The galaxy would never forget the lesson. And humanity would never forget those who died to teach it. 2,000 names carved in stone on Harvest Moon 7. 50,000 more scattered across memorial walls throughout human space. They had died for many things. For justice, for their species, for the principle that some lines cannot be crossed without consequence. But most of all, they had died so that the galaxy would know one simple truth. Do not mistake humanity's kindness for weakness. Do not assume their mercy means they lack strength. And never, ever, harm their children. Because when you cross that line, when you make humanity choose between mercy and justice, they will choose justice every time, and they will pursue it with silent, terrible, unstoppable fury until it is done. The galaxy learned, the galaxy remembered, and the galaxy was better for it.